Hello everyone, the 2014 passage, a little more difficult this one, and with one particularly long and demanding sentence in the middle. Filius Craesi Regis. So again, you want to make sure that you look through the business at the beginning to make sure that you know all of this stuff that's going to potentially help you out with some of the story. And I think in this case it was quite useful. So, Aulus Gellius relates Herodotus' story about the son of Croesus who was dumb. Filius Croesus Regis, the son of Craesi Regis, the son of the king Croesus, cum jam fari per aetatem posset, although he was now at per aetatem, at an age to speak, erat infans, was a young man, and cum, when he had now grown up, or even maybe another concessive clause, although he had now adolevisit, although he had now grown up much, he was still able to fari, to say nothing. Fari coming from for, I speak. The son of the king Croesus, although now per aetatem, at an age when he should be able, posset fari, to speak, was a young man, and although he had now grown up much, he was still item, able, fari, infinitive, for deponent verb, still able to speak, to say nothing. Mutus adeo, he was thought mute to such an extent, and elinguis, and tongue-tied, dio, for a long time. Habitus est, perfect passive verb there. Cum, and this is that really long, difficult sentence. Brackets are advised here, and it could well be helpful for you if you're finding this a bit difficult. So let's start off. Cum, when, temporal clause. I'm going to go all of the way through here until I can find myself a subject, which I'm going to do here, hostis. When an enemy invaderet, was, should we say, attacking, was making an attack in patrem eos, against his father, victum, who had been conquered, bello magno, in a great war, and the city in which he was staying was capta, was captured, the enemy with a drawn sword, not knowing, regem esse, that he was king, unaware, ignorans, present participle, unaware, indirect statement that he was king, the adolescens, the young man, deduxit, should we say, opened his mouth, nitens, trying, clamare, to shout. What a long and difficult sentence. I'm going to get rid of all of my little red bits here and go through that again for you. So, cum in patrem eos, cum, when, hostis, an enemy, gladios stricto, ablative absolute, having drawn his sword, invaderet, was attacking eos patrem, his father, who had been victum, who had been defeated in bello magno, in a great war, and the city, ablative absolute, in which he was staying, shall we say, was captured. Ignorans, not knowing that he was king, this is the enemy, of course. Adolescens, the young man, deduxit, opened his mouth, nitens, trying to clamare, trying to shout out. Quo niso, by this attempt, and by, so quo niso, by this, literally by this nitor, by this striving, by this attempt, and by the power of his, I suppose, character, do we want to say here? By this effort and the force of his spiritus, should we say breath? Rupit, he broke the vitum, he broke the impediment, the impairment, shall we say? He broke the impairment, and the nodum, the bonds, should we say, the lock of his tongue, and he spoke plane, clearly and eloquently, clamans, shouting at the enemy, nay, that the king Croesus ought not to be killed. Indirect command there. I'm going to go through that whole sentence again as well. Quote niso, by this connecting relative, by this striving, by this attempt, and by the impetu, by the power of his breath, ablative here, he rupit, he broke the vitium, he broke the impairment, and the nodum, and the lock and the bond and the lock of his tongue, and he spoke plane, clearly, and articulate, and articulately, and eloquently, comma, clamans, present participle, shouting at the enemy, indirect command that the king Croesus ought not to be killed. I'm looking at this and thinking disability advocates would hate this story. It reminds me of people in the First World War getting soldiers who were in deep trauma from the different battles that they'd faced and essentially trying to frighten them into the power of speaking again. People that had experienced these awful things, and the idea that if you have a disability like this, it can be cured by forcing a person to care enough or be frightened enough is one that I would disagree with. So, tum, then, but the Romans I'm sure probably wouldn't. Tum et hostis, then the enemy, reduxit, put his sword away, and the king was granted, donatus est, his life, and the adolescens and the young man incepit, began, loqui, deponent, infinitive, began to speak prosum from that point onwards. Herodotus is the writer of this memoriae, of this story in his histories. Very good, well done, and I will get the next story to you in a jiffy. All the best, bye-bye.